All right, everybody, back with Captain John here from DV Home Inspections.
Arr.
Greg with Trident Home Loans here to talk about my favorite time of the year. John, how about you? Do you love Halloween?
Halloween's cool. I like it.
Yeah?
It's fun. Kids.
Let's
candy.
start with the hard-hitting questions. What are your top 3 favorite candy you look forward to during Halloween or anytime?
Favorite candy. Oh man, I'm trying to cut back, but
Aren't we all?
yeah. But I will say Snickers really satisfies. That's my jam for sure. Then probably have to switch over to peanut M&Ms. That's my car ride jam. You know what I mean? Like we're going on a long car ride and you just peanut M&Ms keep you awake.
First snacks, as my wife calls them.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, I'd probably have to go with the good old crunch of the Kit Kat bar.
Ooh,
yeah.
Kit Kat. Okay.
Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite three?
I'm gonna start with number 3 first.
Okay.
I like the classic Snickers.
Snickers.
They also have very funny commercials.
Yeah.
Not that it helps the taste, but it is quite funny. Good marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Number 1 and 2, it's very close for me. I'm gonna go number 2, Sour Patch Kids.
Ooh.
If I buy like the medium-sized bag or higher, it's hard for me to like make that last longer than one sitting. Number 1 for me is 100 gram.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you don't see it a lot, but I mean, it's for me, it's my favorite. It tastes so good, and I love it.
I think we'd all like 100 grand.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Honorable mention to Almond Joy, by Oh,
Oh, see, I can't get on board Almond Joy.
What?
But that's okay. That's okay.
Well, maybe it's scary for you. Ooh.
Oh, speaking of scary, so let's maybe dive into some scary topics.
Okay.
And maybe hit me with something on the inspection side that comes to mind when we first start talking about scary stories.
Scary stories. Well, fire safety is kind of a big deal. Always talk to people about this. It's not been until recently that they've mandated in the Florida Building Code that you should have self-closing hinges on the door that goes from your garage to your living space. And so those self-closing hinges, what it's meant to do is separate the garage from the home, because the majority of fires start inside of a garage or in the kitchen. And so if a fire were to start in the garage, you actually want that door to be completely shut so that you have fire separation and you have the opportunity to get out of the home safely through another means of exit. So that's kind of one of the scary things in home inspections that we look for quite a bit. So yeah, that's that.
Right on. I'm going to keep that topic going as far as the scary stories are concerned. And I wanted to talk a little bit about wire fraud. It is something that is prevalent, and people need to be aware. And I think the biggest thing to remember, whether you're buying your first home, whether you're buying your 5th property, you always want to be diligent about who's reaching out to you. Is someone trying to reach out to you via email? Are they sending you requests for things? Are there certain links that they're sending in the emails? The biggest tip that I can tell people when they're getting ready to submit their closing costs is to always reach out to the title agent that you're working with to confirm those instructions directly.
Right.
Typically, they're never going to send those through email. So you want to verify those things directly with the title agent. If you ever have any questions at all about someone reaching out to you, you can either call your title agent or call your lender to make sure that you're verifying things before you're sending anything out. The last thing we want during Halloween or during any time is for someone to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, that would be horrible. You got a whole huge down payment that you're sending off somewhere. You have no idea if you're sending it to the right place, and God forbid you accidentally send it somewhere wrong, and that'll really mess up the deal, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Yep.
Another thing that I think I was thinking about recently about messing up deals in the mortgage world is hurricanes. We've had these hurricanes kind of come through Florida recently. I've done a lot of videos on hurricane preparedness and stuff like that. But from the mortgage standpoint, when you've got an incoming hurricane coming in, kind of what happens with the closing and stuff? Because I know a lot of insurance companies may not even insure a person if there's big storms on the horizon, because you don't know what's going to happen to the homes. So what happens in your world in that situation?
I mean, great question here. And dealing with this recently, one of the biggest things, if you have a person getting ready to purchase a home and they haven't selected their home insurance yet, and now here we have big bad Helene coming through, or Milton coming through, and once that storm is named, you start to have warnings go up. If you haven't chosen your insurance, then those insurance companies will not bind your policy.
Right.
Okay, so what that means now is you're going to have to wait until the storm goes through. You're going to have to wait to see if there's a disaster declaration for your county. And if there is, you're going to likely have to provide photos of the property. You may have to do an inspection after the fact. There's some paperwork that you may have to fill out. So it's all going to kind of depend on where that storm ended up going, the damage declaration that's there for that county, and go from there. But more than likely, if you haven't chosen that policy when that storm is named, we're going to be looking at delays.
Wow.
And we dealt with this recently. We have, since we're kind of spread out throughout the country, we did have to wait and see. We had to take a wait and see approach on some of these loans that we were closing, just to make sure that the damage wasn't there, right? Because if it is, we have another issue to take care of before we can close and fund on the loan.
Yeah,
so,
that would be a
great question.
Huge deal. Yeah, imagine how crazy that would be with, you're in the process of getting ready to purchase a home that you love or whatever, and God forbid, again, something happens and just destroys the home or what have you. That would be terrible, terrible. I mean, have you been through other types of situations where deals have just fallen apart at the last minute for some reason, maybe by fault of the buyer or not fault of the buyer, like something that you can think of, a real life example?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, in one of the cases, just regarding the storm, we did have one where they had to not close on the property because the damage that was done was so severe to the property.
Wow.
So, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, you put things in place so that, well, they didn't just close on that home after this thing was declared, and now we funded this property that's just completely destroyed for the family members. So obviously not something that you want to see happen, but that's the reason why some of these things are put in place to kind of, make sure that we're looking out for the best interest of everyone involved. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. All right.
What about any other horror stories on just maybe some of the things that you've seen in some of your home inspections?
Well, I've definitely seen some crazy stuff. Let's get that right. Huge patches of mold and things like that. Like, you come across that kind of stuff. You just don't expect it. They don't forewarn you, hey, the property's in bad shape, whatever. I've seen some homes that unfortunately, the family that was living there is going through a nasty divorce and signs of domestic violence in the home. That's not been very good, damaged property, that kind of stuff. And you kind of know a little bit of the background of what was happening in that home. And so that's, really scary stuff. But I'll tell you one story that's a little bit on the spooky side, and but it's kind of comical when you think back on it or whatever. Have you heard of the movie The Exorcist?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, this is crazy. So, you got the priest that enters the home and the girl's laying on the bed possessed or what have you. So imagine my reaction when I go to do a home inspection and I knock on the door. The person who owns the home the person who owns the home doesn't answer the door, but it's a caretaker. And they say, oh, the homeowner is inside. Come on in.
Oh, boy.
And they bring me into this home, and unbeknownst to me, there's the homeowner lying in a bed because they're permanently hospitalized or hospice care in the bed, and I have to do a home inspection around them.
Oh, man.
That was super awkward. It was the craziest thing, super scary.
Wow.
I was very uncomfortable doing a home inspection around that situation.
Yeah, I've not heard of that one. That's wild. And I didn't expect that to be what you were telling me.
It was great. I've got some crazy stories that I've seen in my day, but yeah, that's not one that I would have ever expected as well.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, to follow that, I'm not sure, but I'll throw one more at you. What comes to mind is the lender shark, right? So,
oh boy.
You've seen the movie Jaws, right?
Yep.
I guess that's just the easiest tie-in, but the movie Jaws. But I kind of the way I look at that is the lender shark that's out there for first-time home buyers or anyone that's shopping around. We hear it a lot of times. We come back and say, well, I shopped around and so-and-so was able to beat your rate or they matched your rate. And my take on that is always that I just would ask that they make sure they've gotten a loan estimate or a fee sheet that shows how they're giving them that rate. Because a lot of times, especially first-time home buyers, they assume some of these fees on there are just regular fees. And they need to pay attention to Section A. are they paying for the rate that we're able to give them without charging? Just certain things of that nature. So the lender shark, beware as you hear the Jaws music the next time that you watch it. They're out there. So beware.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, maybe there's lenders who are not as tasteful in their presentation, so to speak, while they're legally lending and they're offering things that are legal products. But stuff like they add points and things to kind of fudge some numbers and make some numbers move around, but then there's these huge costs up front that the buyer is not expecting. Can you speak kind of like what that means, just comparing apples to apples?
Yeah, and it kind of makes me think of like a car buying process also, because a lot of times, with a car buying process, you go in, you're talking to one guy, and he says, well, I'll be right back. He takes your sheet and he takes it behind the wall, and he stays there for, it seems like forever, especially if you're there with your kids, it's forever. And then he comes back and says, well, this, we might be able to do this, right? Or they change this, or here's my final numbers. And it's just one of those things where really you just want to be diligent in asking the questions. I think you want to tell people, just don't be afraid to ask questions. There's not any dumb questions. You want to understand you're signing up for something for 30 years in most cases. You want to know what's on there. And, there's flexibility on these things in most cases, depending on what the rate is. You can talk with your borrowers about what's more important. Are they wanting to bring as little money to closing as possible? The rates are not all set in stone, and there's flexibility there. And you want to work with someone who's willing to show you examples. Hey, what's best for you? Is it a rate at 6.25 and with no points? Is it something else? Is there a lender credit that we can talk about? And so those things, just have those conversations ready when you're in the process of purchasing a home.
That's good. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's lighten it up a little bit. Talking heavy business so far. Let's go through what are your favorite, maybe scary type or maybe thriller type or suspense type movies.
You see, I was going to ask this too, so I'm glad that you did, Captain. My favorite all time, I'll start with number one in this case.
Okay.
I am a Halloween fan.
Okay.
So Michael Myers, the original. Yeah, some of the more recent ones are good. They're well done. But Halloween is my favorite. I'll give you a sneaky good one that I don't ever hear anybody mention is What Lies Beneath.
If you
have a chance. So you have this older couple. The guy's the professor. They have this beautiful property out in the country, and some weird things start to happen in their home. Is the home haunted? The wife thinks she's kind of going crazy, but unbeknownst to her, her husband has had a shady past while they were married, and has done some things, and perhaps has taken care of the situation in his past, and now their home is haunted, and the ghost is trying to more or less tell the wife what happened, right? And so it's a sneaky good movie.
Interesting.
It kind of freaked me out the first time I saw it. So that's one out there. And I do like the original Saw movie. I thought the first Saw was fantastic.
Okay.
The guy, spoiler alert, the guy's laying there the whole time. Like he's there in the room. And when he got up, it just, I love Halloween's my favorite. So I can talk about scary movies all day.
That's great.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, so funny enough, my dad, when we were growing up, he loved watching horror movies, and it was just very normal in my house watching horror movies. And so I've got some old classic favorites and stuff like that I think back on, and there's a sense of nostalgia there. But as I've grown up, I've kind of gone, ooh, I don't know if I would watch these around my kids. Freddy's a cool dude, when I was growing up. But I don't know if I want my kids to be hanging out with Freddy like I was and such, right? So in reality nowadays, it's kind of the sci-fi stuff that really comes at me. When there's a freak experiment that goes wrong and a zombie apocalypse happens, right? Like that kind of stuff. I'm into that kind of stuff because there's a little sense of realism that this could actually happen. There's, people messing around with genes and and all kinds of stuff. So some of the zombie apocalypse things are kind of interesting. But for sure, all time when it comes to kind of sci-fi thriller suspense, Terminator. Terminator is it. Like from all the way back in the 80s till now, every movie Terminator, I am into it.
John Connor?
Man, John Connor. And I'll tell you, the scary stuff about artificial intelligence and machines taking over the world.
Look at it now. Look at what we see.
Where are we at? Like, have we seen what Elon Musk is doing? Come on. And the iRobot and stuff. Bro, that's scary stuff.
Makes
and so,
you think.
All that said, AI is a big part of what's going on in technology these days. Does AI or any other sort of like technology like that have a big impact in mortgage lending at all?
Oh yeah, and we've seen a lot of the investors we use, they're implementing these tools as well. Even one we were just talking about in a meeting last week, it gives you an opportunity to upload some information into it and ask it questions. The key is asking your detailed questions and giving it information. But we're able to look at different loan scenarios and plugging these pieces of information in to get advice on certain loan scenarios that maybe you've got questions on. So it's still growing, it's improving, but there's new things that we see all the time. And so we're able to use it, the different chat GPTs and of the world, and they put their own names on it. The investor will name it their name, and but it's very helpful. You can certainly go to it right away and get some information up front rather than maybe being delayed in kind of gathering some of your information, right? So I think the key there is to always kind of do some follow-up research too. Follow up with either your account executive or doing your own research on what it's telling you. You never want to just take something for face value because everything is always still learning and improving, but absolutely, there's definitely strides there to help the industry. So,
that's good. In the home inspection world, artificial intelligence is definitely taking on a little bit of responsibility there. Now, what I will say is there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. I've seen products out there where they are marketing that somebody can go and take photos and then artificial intelligence analyze the photos and determine what the problems are with the home. I would not recommend that at all, ever. Just, as good as technology can be, you just need a human to kind of sniff something out. It's
sometimes you need that human element.
Artificial intelligence can't smell a broken gas line. You know what I mean? So, but to your point with ChatGPT, sometimes it does help a home inspector to create a narrative around something. If they say, how do I word this? How do I phrase this in a way that helps the home buyer understand exactly what the implications are of this particular defect? AI is helping quite a bit there. So tools to use, but they're just tools. You still need the good inspector. You still need, somebody who understands what they're looking for to give you the best information. So, yeah.
Well, Captain John, I appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to tackle? I think we might be able to wrap it up.
I think that we are wrapping it up, but have a happy Halloween season.
Happy Halloween, everybody out there. Go to your trunk or treats, but always be safe.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.